Welcome to Mindful Drawing. I'm Robert, and I'll be your guide on this meditation practice that enters a space of mindfulness through the act of drawing. And this week we'll explore how to construct kind of a curvy spatial operation through its simple geometry elements, the points, the lines, and the control kind of weighted points that shape a curve, allow us to give it specificity as well as let it open up to that sinuous nature of a curve. A little more controlled way of constructing a curve than just moving your hand around and wiggling it on the page, but both will work in the long term. So a little bit of a technique, and we'll let that technique build into a space of overlap, interconnection, interlocking, and interference that we can hopefully tease something out of as we read it with our eye and our hand to have that dialogue with the page. If I work mostly in pen today, have a pencil handy just in case I want to switch it up in the mediums, so have whatever you want around. Go ahead and gather your supplies, establish your space, and let's draw together. A little technique introduction, warm-up, or I guess concept. The technique is nothing fancy or complicated, but the idea will be mapping out the construction of some curves in 2D to 3D space and seeing what kind of layering or interlocking might happen between them. So we'll start with some straight lines. Any angle could work, but I'll work kind of at the 45 or across the page, just it gives a little bit more structure to space stuff out and form any kind of little wander, zigzag, notched, interlocked thing. So some kind of little back and forth with teeth, keeping pretty straight edges. I suppose there's no reason one couldn't go at an angle as well, if that's interesting to you. But those will be our basis for transforming them into curves and into a little ribbon kind of thing. So each one of these segments of line has a start, roughly middle area, and that can move around as you play within it, and an end point. And we can start to document each one, get kind of the beginning, middle, end of each segment as control points along the way. And from those we can begin to interpolate or imagine a bit of a curve with some guidance and structure. Could always just start from a curve, but this will be the place for today where the curve might begin at the starting point, move through the middle, and then try to get to the next middle. So we're always kind of trying to get to the next middle point, which means the corner ones are looser and we can avoid them. How you get there, whether it's very tight into the edges or a little bit smooth, up to you as you work through it, and maybe it'll change along the way. So those middle ones become our kind of guides, trying to kind of hit them roughly at a tangent perpendicular to their connection to the curve. But if they get a little off, that's okay. Again, just a guide. Like I said, the non-straight one should work as well. You're just gonna have like a little bit more gradual movement through some of those curves. Flow along there. And then that's the basis of what we'll work with. And establish a little bit of a field with the straight lines because they're kind of fast to get in there, and then begin to transform it. And then to take them out of here into the 3D, we can just bring all the middle points up in space. They can go the same amount, they can go different amounts. That will just affect how it ends up looking in 3D. And then connect them just the same, but without the influence of the endpoints being there visually. And you can get a bit of a little ribbon moving through space. And a few vertical lines can begin to help distinguish that from the 2D into the 3D. So points, lines, and some form of surface is our base geometry setup. Getting a nice position with the paper, taking note of where you are, and it'll probably work best if it kind of follows a bit of a consistent grain, whether that's diagonal or straight is up to you, but the diagonal will be a little easier to see, and we'll kind of work perpendicular to each other just for the structure of a bit of a 3D thing. And make sure the hand can move in both directions. You're not kind of twisted or off to the side, and just give yourself a chance to adjust, whether you adjust the media in front of you or your body relative to it, depending on your setup. Take note of where you are. When you're set, take a couple of breaths for yourself at whatever pace feels nice, just to notice the air moving in, sitting there for a moment, and moving out again. And with a bit of attention on the fingertips, go ahead and pick up whatever instrument you're working with today. Notice it in the hand, find that comfortable place, a little bit of controlled movement today, so maybe a more writing-esque style to it if you're using a pen. And somewhere, maybe roughly center-ish of that diagonal to the page you're working with, begin a little journey of the straight line. We'll go for a bit on a segment. Maybe as the hand moves and begins to flex, we change direction, moving roughly perpendicular to that. The diagonals work just fine. And this first one, kind of getting used to it and establishing, moving a little back and forth or stepping, whether it overlaps, takes its time to move back and forth on the page, slowly making its way from one side over towards the other. I could reach the corner or just kind of end somewhere. The line segments can continue on wherever and ever off the page. We'll just have a bit of a field. And whatever those first few steps and notches do, they set up our playground for the rest of the system. We're going to look at an idea of a little fitting or notching into places and playing with this grain direction, horizontal, vertical, or perpendicular axes working with each other. So starting from that, the curves can work both ways. They have no start or end. We can find a place, maybe nestled in a corner, or captured in a bit of a U or something like that, or a zigzag, and work out from there, starting with a relationship, following it with the eyes and the breath, moving the pen on a light exhalation to track along. When the breath ends, choosing whether it continues to track into the shape or begins to move on its own path out of the shape with each segment, guided by our breathing. In to start, and out to move along for a little while. Perhaps the length of the line aligns with the breath over time. Once it frees itself from the shape, it can just begin its journey in any direction, the right to left, or the up to down kind of condition. Still exploring the same paths of notching around or stepping over, working roughly perpendicular, each breath the guide to the next segment, so a little slower. Whenever you ever need to catch up with the urges of breathing, going a little slow or a little fast, that'll just begin to reflect itself in the drawing. Maybe a longer one here or there to let the breath catch up, or a few short ones and look engaged and moving quickly. But taking a little bit of time and discipline, that patience of breathing in to start a line, breathing out to extend it along its way. We'll set up several of these, exploring the ins and outs, and each one making its own new ins and outs that we can work our way into. So feel free to start each journey anywhere that catches the eye, taking a moment to look things over, finding a little pocket of space perhaps, and then breathing a line out into existence. These first few slow, tracking that exhalation. As you breathe in and exhale out the line onto the paper, let the mind open to the other sensations that slowness brings. Our primary attention on the cycle that we begin, that opens up the space, breathing in and the exhaling to lean into that space with the tool. In there, noticing the breath move into the body and noticing body move out with the breath. Where do the eyes wander as you prepare for the next engagement with that inhalation? What do you notice in the haptic sensation? In your exhalation as the pencil or pen move across the paper? The slowness of engagement. Open up the senses, tighten them in. Might be a little different at any time or for any person. There's a lot of ambient condition, air temperature, and noise around you that might creep into those spaces between. We notice them and then have our attention back on the line. We have a pretty good amount of meanderings developing there. Maybe take some time for one or two more. We got some space still, or we can begin to transition to reading the curves, to marking their end points, marking their midpoints or thereabouts. choosing a path to work through the maze that develops, noting with a little dot those key moments along the geometry. In the marking of a dot, finding a rhythm there, or in the mark itself, they're quick movements. They disengage from that heavier, slower rhythm of our body's breath and engage more a rhythm of the hand or the fingers. Perhaps it's how the mark or the dot is made, a series of little revolutions to put some material down, a number that tries to remain consistent, 3, 6, whatever it may be, making that little dot go faster, just a couple of revolutions to get the ink or graphite there, or take a little time, make them a little heavier, mark them out. At this stage, we'll walk through, wander, and give structure to the next layer of interface. If you have to play by sliding the middle one left or front, back, forward or back, a little closer to one side or the other, gives it some weight, will change the curves. But as we move through, we don't have to think about it. We can play, or we can just make the mark where it is, where our eye finds middle and end. Let the hand take over. 2, 3, 4 little movements to deposit some material there. Begin to see if you can go a little quicker, or if you need to go a little slower. Noticing and testing the pace of that eye-hand connection, the reading through. You might be able to go quite quickly. The eye and hand are aligned, and just find the place, make the mark, find the place, make the mark. Sometimes the hand gets a little tired, or the eye doesn't quite tell the tip of that pen or pencil where to go. Take the time to let them align with each other, finding their place. The speed that we work or that we move, more a reflection of what we are doing, not where we are going with it. And if you fill up all the dots, you can add more lines of interlocking or move to the next condition of finding a curve through it. These kind of are paths, or checkpoints, the mid ones along the line we try to meet up with. The corner ones pull the curve in between to give it a little bit of tension. And it's part an exercise of our vision of the page, our orientation of the hand, and our kind of careful moving through. Might be a time to switch to a different medium if you want. Or just let the overlapping lines do the work. Just work through, take my time to reach a midpoint, and then begin to curve to the next one. You need to get a feeling for it by moving back and forth a little bit until it starts to flow, but there's no right curve. We're just following them through the maze. Start fresh at each point. You get a little turned around with the hands and the orientation. And maybe find continuity. Notice that it's easy to miss a point here or there. We just correct course, readjust, and eventually make it through with a bit of a tensioned curve or spline along there. Bringing your focus internal to that hand, wrist, fingertip connection as you move between these moments. Looking just a little bit ahead to know where the next target point is. Does it turn left or right? Does it loop around or slide through? Go at the pace that works with your hand. No need to get all the way through all quickly. Practicing that visual guide to the physical geometry on the page. And you find some fun conditions where things get tight and we have to make a choice of which bit to follow. Things can overlap, they're just curves on a page. It's up to you to guide them. You might notice some places where movement was difficult, the curve feels less smooth. You can always come back through and clean them up or let them be. Just a moment there. Whatever the eye tells your mind to do. When you've made your way through the system of points and lines, you can return to, add to, extend, and change at any time. Once they're there on the page, they can be adjusted, modified, repositioned. Again, to work our way through it for a few minutes of starting to add another layer, see where that goes. It might be easiest to start at the farthest extreme outside where you have blank space, so in the upper left corner. As things will get a little bit complex where they all overlap. See how far we get, but each point, each midpoint can move its way up in space. How much can be a game. We can look for consistency and then we'll have a nice parallel rhythm, or allow for some ups and downs to have movement in multiple directions. I think I'll let each line be its own little thing. Maybe a little bit guided by what I see underneath, a little bit guided by the breath. Some quicker jaunts, be following both the inhalation and the exhalation. Some curves or some lines extended on the exhalation, some extended on the inhalation. Maybe those begin to form their length and variation, the different breath engagement working its way into the drawing. And then those points, you can reinforce them with a little dot or just know that the end of the line is the dot. Totally up to you. As the drawing emerges, those layers can come together. And then they follow a similar path to the curve below, hitting the tangents in a similar pattern, inflecting at each midpoint that's been brought up. Or a little ribbon wiggling through there. Maybe those poles are made of grass or straw, they wobble a bit, or rigid structure. And for each one of these ribbons, you begin to give them material or dimension by working along them the series of light vertical lines between each point transition. When they're facing us, when you see them as a little bit of a 3D thing, they're a little bit heavier. When they disappear back onto the other side as they loop around, make it a little lighter. Don't worry about it too much. And feel free at this point for the next few minutes to move through at a pace that interests you. To do all of the curves, moving them up and down, or spend some time on each ribbon, giving it dimension with lines, or oscillate back and forth, however you see fit. The playground, the structure is all in place. And now you make something out of it. The more we move into the dense interlocking, fitting of the network, the more things become complex and overlapped. The mind keeping an eye on things. If you ever want to change medium, bring a pencil in or add some color or something, feel free. Everything will work. Okay. Points just moving around in space, connected in related orders. Divine structure. The information density increases as things overlap or coexist in the same place, since even if something looks 3D to us here, it is just on a flat piece of paper. All the points and lines and curves exist together, smooshed onto that single surface. That's part of the exercise of the mind, to keep a layer of information in focus. All the stuff behind can fade away, only the moment of the current line or edge, important right then. So use your breath to remind yourself, here, I'm just drawing a line up. Here, just connecting the points. Not that it's easy, but that the practice can help us build that awareness to the action and separate out the complexity. As we reach towards the end of the time here, take that as a chance to finish out the current actions of engagement. Whether that's a finishing of a series of articulations, or moving through that final curve, or just getting the dots in place to structure the next interaction. Notice it as a pausing, a coming towards the end. You can always re-engage, but it's good to take a moment to rest the action, but not necessarily just cut it off mid-moment. Set time that will work itself out. Just a few more marks, just a little longer on the curve. As you come to your end, noticing it, enjoying the completion of a moment, seeing the opportunity for more throughout the structure of the feel in the drawing, and taking a few breaths with it, just a little bit of time to recenter the body if you found yourself contorted or moved into a position that served the interaction, rolling the shoulders a little bit, letting the breath move with that roll. Bring yourself back a little to the space, a couple of hand stretches, and opening the eyes fresh, literally or figuratively, to the page. Notice it, see where you might do more, and put it on the shelf whenever you want to engage with the exercise throughout the week. Oh, thank you for staying tuned throughout the exercise, and if you enjoyed it, let me know in the comments what you found in your own patterns of interlocking interference in that curve line dialogue. Give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more videos of mindful drawing, usually every week here on YouTube. It's fun to put these things together to sometimes reach back and explore some base fundamentals of techniques. This one's coming out of kind of a digital workflow, but serves us just fine with a pen or a pencil in that analog way of thinking about how we structure the space of a page and structure the geometry that makes the form and the expression in the end. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your day or evening, and draw well. Thank you.